I'm Anil Kumar. Now, let us review few skills which are required for calculus. The question here is state, domain and range. We have two different functions given to us. The first one is f of x equals to 2 over square root x plus 4. The second one is g of x equals to x square minus 9 divided by x square plus 7x plus 12. You can pause the video, write down their domain and range, and then look into my suggestion. Now to get the domain, we know that the denominator here should not be 0, and for the radical, we know that it should be non-negative, right? So to get the domain, what we really have, the condition combine both, that x plus 4 should be actually greater than 0. It cannot be 0 also, since dividing by 0 is not permitted. So x plus 4 greater than 0 gives us that x should be greater than minus 4. So that becomes the domain, right? So we get domain of the function as equal to x belongs to real numbers, where x is greater than minus 4. Now let's look into range. As far as range is concerned, we know square root function is always positive, so it is always positive. So range is always positive. The other thing is, what is the minimum value? Now, if x is very, very large, then this function will approach 0. For a small value of h, right, let's say negligible value, let's say it could be minimum minus 4, close to minus 4. So when it is very low, then the values will be very high, correct? So it could be very high to 0, and therefore we get that the range for the given function is y belongs to real numbers, where y is greater than 0, right? It cannot be 0 because it is approaching 0 when x is very, very large. So range could be greater than 0 for the given function. Now let's look into the second function. Here we have g of x equals to x square minus 9 divided by x square plus 7x plus 12. We can factor x square minus 9 could be written as x plus 3 times x minus 3. And the denominator, we are looking for two numbers whose product is 12, so that 4 and 3 will work for us. So it could be x plus 3 times x plus 4. Now this expression can be simplified, and we can write g of x as equals to x minus 3 over x plus 4. Now that gives us two restrictions. One is that x is not equals to minus 3. The other one is not equals to minus 4. So to write the domain, we know that the domain of the function is x belongs to real numbers, but x is not equal to minus 3 or minus 4. So that is the first part. The other part is, what are the other values which this function can have as far as the range is concerned? Now, in this function, the horizontal asymptote is at y equals to 1. So this function really, if x approaches infinity, positive or negative, for example, then y will approach, if x is very large, then y will approach a value of 1, right? So for a very large value of x, 3 and 4 will be negligible, x over x will be 1. So it is going to approach 1, but it is never going to be there. So that is one restriction. The second restriction is that we have a hole at x equals to minus 3, right? So what is the position of hole? So the position of hole is x as minus 3, because these two common factors cancel out, gives us the hole. Now, if I substitute minus 3 here, I get 0. So that is that x is not equals to 0. It gives us the same position, right? So that means the only restriction for the given function is that that the range is not equal to 0 and it is not equal to 1. So these are the two restrictions for us, correct? So we can write down the range for the function. So range is that y belongs to real numbers, where y is not equal to 1, since we have a horizontal asymptote, and is not equal to 0. So these are the two restrictions on the given function, correct? I'd like you to review similar examples so that you are familiar with most of the functions, and then you can write down domain and range for those functions. So one of those could be, let us say f of x equals to log of, let's say 2 minus x, correct? So you can write something here, let's say number 3. So those are the functions which you could practice with, and you can also look into the functions which involve rational functions like we have here. So for example, you can have 2 minus x over 3 plus x divided by x minus 1 over x plus 1, correct? So you can look into these kinds of functions. Remember, when you're dividing, you have to look into restrictions for both numerator and denominator of the divisor. So these things will help you to kind of review the skills required for calculus. I hope that helps. Thank you and all the best.